welcome to SCM Live. Today's episode is Oddballs and Outliers. We have two SCM experts who have picked 6 sales from the internet that defy logic and perhaps description. Our two experts today are Jeff Zurschmeide, who often writes affordable classics for Sports Car Market, and Summer Hooker, who's been a judge at Pebble Beach, specializes in motorcycles, Alfas, and Volvo 1800s. Summer, let's jump right in. What's your weird pick to begin with?
Well, let me explain mine first. The first is a tale of two Alfas that kind of defied logic different ways, and then my third is a BMW. I want to start with the first one, though, the Bmw R27 that sold last week. It was the BMW R27 was the last of the singles that BMW manufactured themselves. These were bikes for the population to ride around town. It had an upgrade from previous ones because it had an isolated suspension. Typically, I sold one of these last year for $5,000. This one sold for $18,000. The guy, he did a good job of describing it, so forth. It had hands have been laid on by the proper people, but still, that was a phenomenal sale. But as I say, sometimes bring a trailer should be called what too much.
Could you have found another one in this condition for less money?
I believe so, but you know, that's the thing about online auctions. It's there, it's available, and if you've got the money and don't mind paying the premium on top.
Summer, what would the best part of owning this motorcycle be?
It's cute. It's reliable. People have ridden them cross country. I think wagon trains went about the same pace, but they've been known. A friend of mine had one. He said he actually got it up to 70 once, long downhill stretch with a tailwind.
Jeff, what's your first pick?
My first pick is a 1984 Subaru Brat. Brat is an acronym for something to do with four-wheel drive. It is a modification of the sedan that they were making at the time, the Leon era sedan, and they just turned it into a little pickup truck. And to get around the chicken tax in the United States, they put these two little nifty plastic seats in the bed facing backwards with little handholds on them. And if you were in high school in the late 70s and early 80s when these things were being sold, you wanted one. It just looks like so much fun.
And what have these cars been selling? What are these trucks? What have they been selling for generally?
They typically run around $6,000-8,000, sometimes peaking into 5 figures. This one sold for $20,500, which is not the highest sale ever recorded for one. But since this one is really nice, well kept, this is the one you want. It went to $20,000, which makes it a bit of an outlier for a fairly oddball vehicle.
Who's the buyer for this car?
I think really hardcore Subaru fans. This vehicle will give you instant street cred in the Subaru community. Especially, there's a whole subculture in Subaru fans who really like the older vehicles. This one has dual range, 4-wheel drive to it, so you actually can use these things off-road very effectively. Great choice for light off-roading or, just other hooning around in old Subarus.
Is that a correct or unusual graphics package on that truck?
I think it is a reproduction of an original. It may not be exactly correct, but it could be pretty close.
Do you think, Jeff, that this little Subaru Brat bump is flavor of the moment like Broncos are these days, or is this a sustainable price?
I think over time, if you keep this vehicle as nice as it is right now, you won't lose any money on it. Subaru made these vehicles for a lot longer. They were sold in America through 1987, manufactured until 1992 or 94 elsewhere in the world. They made about 800,000 of them, but they didn't last for the most part because mostly they got beaten up by the people who owned them first. So I think the future market for the Subaru Brat is pretty bright.
So what is it about BAT that caused this to bring double, if not triple, retail if you were looking on Facebook Market or Craigslist?
I don't think it was BAT that made it BAT for the Brat that made it go so high. I think it's the quality of this particular instance of the vehicle. There's plenty of examples on BAT of Brats selling $6,000, $8,000, $10,000. But this one is really clean, really well kept, nicely put together, and I think it's worth the money that it brought.
So you'd call this well bought?
I would say well bought and well sold. I think it's a fair deal on the example that you want of a Subaru Brat. And if you're going to be buying one at all, you might as well spend the money and get a good one.
Summer, what's next for you?
Next for me is a 1960 Alfa Romeo Spider Normale that was sold a few weeks ago down in Florida. And it's not my attitude is, what were they thinking? This thing sold for 36 plus buyer's premium. It's a complete rust bucket. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't recommend tetanus shots before you opened the screen and looked at it. All the panels were rusted. The numbers match. It had decent interior. It's would have, 10 years ago been a parts car. Had the toolkit, but it's going to be, pretty much jack up everything around the firewall and replace it.
What I wonder, Summer, with Alphas like this, and I've grown up from one like you have, and when this would have been a parts car or $1,500, I look at rusted out 356s that bring big money, and I'm starting to wonder if just the sheer cost of getting a VIN number and something to work with is now $30,000 for a Giulietta Alfa.
It could be. I mean, you go to sales and you see really nice ones, around 50. I mean, this guy is going to be into this for six figures and 6 years, getting it redone. And that's if he's lucky.
So somewhere like you, I've had a lot of Alphas. My big, not concern, but question about buying this car as a starter car is you've got probably the least desirable Giulietta in the least desirable configuration. It's got vent windows in it, so it's not a short door car. Mm-hmm. It's not a 57 or earlier, and it's a Normale. And those cars which had a progressive or vacuum operated 2-barrel Solex were really slow cars. So at the end of the day, you're building a car that's a $60,000 or $70,000 car, not a $125,000 car.
Well, it's going to be a $125,000 car when they finish it.
You mean an investment?
Yeah.
I did like the seats on that car.
Oh, the interior was nice.
Kind you'd like to find in a salvage yard and pull all the seats and the door cards out.
I just wonder if anybody actually talked to the person before they bought the car. Because if you went to any restoration shop and showed them that car, they're going to quote you six figures.
Oh, yeah. They had some interesting dialogue about it. One person pointed out, he said he thought this is a prime car for export because evidently they're so rigid about cars coming from abroad, having anything done to the body, they don't let them in. So he said the good side of this is it wouldn't have any problems re-importing it overseas. And sometimes guys get cars like this and they just take them to these shops in Poland where they have guys who really can knock out panels and so forth, but still, it's going to be a lot of expense getting it back over there, getting it blown apart, and being hopeful that there's something left when you blow it apart.
Jeff, I can see that you have a visceral attraction to that rust bucket of Summers. What's going through your heart and your veins right now?
My initial reaction is I want to dive in and save that car like it was a wounded kitten. But those cars, they are like the sirens in the ancient Greek myths, right? They will lure you in and crash you on the rocks. And you'll buy it today thinking you're gonna save it and make this great deal and send it to Poland or whatever, and then a year from now, you have ample time to regret.
Jeff, when you say you want to dive in and save that car, I have an image of you diving in, that car crawling onto your back, wrapping its arms around you, and the two of you sinking to the ocean bottom together.
That would be accurate, yes.
Actually, I think it's been to the ocean bottom already.
So, Summer, have you ever actually heard a success story where somebody bought a car like this, sent it to someplace like Poland, had a restoration that came out really well, under budget, and then sold the car for a profit?
No, but anybody that makes that claim could probably also run for president.
Or else look for glass slippers.
Yeah.
Before we go back to Jeff now, I'm going to do a shameless plug for the magazine Sports Car Market. Again, I'm Keith Martin, the publisher. We have the best price ever on this show. You go to sportscarmarket.com/Zoom. You get 25% off of the magazine, which is almost 200 pages in print every month, and a digital issue. And it's less than $5 a month, which is less than a latte, and certainly less than it will cost you to restore that Alfa Romeo. So go to sportscarmarket.com/Zoom, and this offer is good indefinitely or until we say it's off. So go today. Next, Jeff, your next pick.
My next pick is a 1990 Toyota Tercel, and how this car even ended up on Bring a Trailer is a little bit of a quandary, but or why it would. But it was bid up to $3,900, which is about what they cost when they were new. This one has your basic 82 horsepower, 1.5 liter engine, and the 3-speed automatic that just defines dismal performance in this thing. My girlfriend back in the early 90s had one of these, and it was a penalty box by the standards of its own era. It was the car you got when you just couldn't afford anything else.
Jeff, is there any redeeming feature to this car? Anything special about it that would cause you to say, "Gee, I kind of like that thing"?
No, nothing. I mean, this is one that you wouldn't choose. You would never choose to drive this car. I guess unless you have, very, very fond memories of a very important personal rite of passage happening in the back seat. I can't imagine why you'd want one.
If you were going to look for one of these for yourself, would you look on Bring a Trailer?
No, I would definitely be cruising. Craigslist might even be a cut above. It'd probably be Facebook Marketplace.
What would you pay cash for this car?
Nothing, zero. Don't want it. To keep it out of my driveway. When my daughter was learning to drive and I needed a sacrificial car, I found a 1995 Subaru Impreza with all-wheel drive and a 2.2 liter engine for $1,500, and it ran reliably. It was safe. It did all the things.
I see cars just regular Toyota Corolla, things like that, or Honda Civics that are bringing $40,000, $50,000 on Bring a Trailer. And what I don't understand is those cars never were anything but an economy car. It wasn't like it was an MGB or a TR3. They never did anything. They never had sex appeal when they were new. They were never built to inspire passion. They were just built to a price to sell 1 million of. I don't understand why those cars are bringing so much money.
I think it's a nostalgia factor, just because, people had that. They remember it longingly, and theirs probably rusted away or got run to the ground, just like Volkswagen. That was really a nondescript vehicle. They were kind of cute, but a lot of people just trashed them, turn them into dune buggies and so forth. And now, look what a nice original Volkswagen will bring.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about it's the car you had in high school or college, or the car you wish you had.
No,
One you always wanted.
But has nothing to do with driving pleasure.
Not in a 1990 Tercel.
Well, it could bring back memories for some people. I mean, I have seen that happen where they just say, I have really fond memories of this because whatever, and by, writing a big check, they can rekindle those memories, which, having a background in psychology, they've already repressed all the bad memories they had associated with it.
Solmer, I took a sneak peek at your next pick. I would say it's in a different category than Jeff's Toyota Tercel. What are we going to look at next?
Okay, my next one is a 1960, 59 Alfa Romeo Giulietta Normale, but turnkey, ready to go. You read on these people, they're always talking about, well, when I get my Alfa, I want to put a bigger engine in it. I want to put disc brakes in there. My attitude about this is, why weren't people thinking? This car is ready to go. It's got a big engine in it, disc brakes all the way around. Suspension's been tweaked. The body's very good. Had one little rust issue that he pointed out. You could have hopped in this thing and driven cross country. It sold for less than the junkers do on the same auction site.
What did it bring, Summer?
It sold for 32.
But now I remember looking at pictures of this. Isn't it kind of really more of a resto mod than an Alfa Romeo?
Well, that's what I called it. I mean, it's an Alfa Romeo resto mod, but it seems like a lot of people really want to do that. It doesn't really manifest it from the outside. The eyebrows were missing and the dash was changed, but he had the eyebrows in there. The dash, you could have painted it red and probably fooled most of the people. But the thing about it is, instead of, waiting for your car to come back 6 years later from Poland, all you had to do is wait till you got off the plane and go hop in this thing and start driving it.
Would you be able to live with yourself as the owner looking at that dashboard every time you got behind the wheel?
Oh yeah, I have hot rods too. I probably, I might have taken it out and had somebody machine turn it or just paint it red so it blends in more. You could go back in and actually put the stock instruments in there too.
Jeff, what would you do? What would you do to this car?
Drive
Not
it.
much. Probably just drive it, enjoy it, and I might change the dash a little bit. I put the eyebrows back on it, and
Summer, I will bet you that if you tried to put the eyebrows back on the front of that car, that they would not even come close to fitting the curve of the body.
possibly. I just went through that when I repainted my Spider. I took the eyebrows and all the trim to a polishing shop, and they held one of them on the buffer too long and tweaked the end of it. It wouldn't go back on. They wouldn't make good on it, so I finally took it to a guy who works in a museum here. He called me back the next day and said it's fixed. He just tweaked it back out. But it is, you can kind of do test fits with those. It's tricky. They're not, you see why a lot of people have rubber behind their eyebrows and the grills.
Right. So what you're both saying is that with the cars we've looked at today, this is a car where you can't touch it. Your job is, you got a good deal, assuming it runs and drives well, that it stops well, that it's nicely fettled, your best bet on this car is just to leave it alone and drive it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it would be ready for any rally. Just driving, enjoying. It's, you can take it on the interstate with a big engine, no issues there. I read about guys all the time. They're inquiring, what can I do to get a bigger engine in my normality? They have to go through getting the different motor mount brackets and so forth, and then they're discovering the hood doesn't want to close and stuff like that. This is all done on this one.
And Jeff, what do you have for us?
My last car is a 1974 Volkswagen Thing, and I've got a long-standing affectionate relationship with these. Used to own a 73 and a 74 back in the early days, and in terms of a really fun car to just knock around in, especially if you live somewhere with good weather, you can't do much better than a Thing. They are all the things that you love about a convertible Beetle or a VW bus are present. And you can pop the doors off, take the top down, fold the windshield down, and just enjoy, driving on the beach or driving in the woods.
What was the condition of this car described as?
It was described as being solid and good and mostly rust free, and it was a good quality example in one of the original colors. They originally came in white, yellow, and orange in this country, and it sold for $15,500, which is about what they're going for a decent Thing these days.
So why did you pick this car as an oddball or an outlier?
Well, they've always been an oddball vehicle, right? They were not sold in great numbers in this country. People, when you owned one, or when I owned one, constant comments on it. People want to come up and talk about it, especially if you've done something like take the doors off and the top off, so that you've got more of a Jeep-like presentation.
So Jeff, my relationship with the VW Thing, I had a yellow 73. And the 73s had the gasoline heaters in them. My daughter, when she was neither 10 or 11, I took her to Pacific City, and we took the doors off and the windshield off, and I taught her how to drive a manual shift right there on the beach. And we probably spent 2 hours going first and second, chasing seagulls up and down the beach. And she will never forget her first time behind the wheel of a car and using a clutch and shifting. So the Thing has a visceral, positive memory to me, to being everything you want a basic vehicle to be.
It goes, it turns, it stops, and it does so. It's not fast, right? It came with a standard 1600 dual port engine, the same as in the Beetle. So it was not a real fast vehicle, but it sure was fun to drive and fun to own. And I had it. I was living in the Santa Cruz Mountains after the earthquake in 1989, and there were places where there were gaps and cracks and drop-offs and things like that. And it was effectively about like having a Jeep. I could go anywhere.
So let me ask the two of you. Let's assume that price has nothing to do with this. If you were going to take one of these 6 vehicles home with you today, which one would it be, Sommer?
Oh, I'd take the rest of them at home. If I didn't already have a Spider, I would have bought that. I thought that was great value.
You couldn't replace the car for twice that.
No.
What you have to do, though, you have to have the personal courage to deal with the purists.
True.
Okay. What about you, Jeff?
I agree with Sommer. That red Alfa is definitely bang for your buck. The best car we've seen here today. And I would go get a little Scuderia Non Originale sticker and put it on the side and park it next to anything.
So before we wrap up today's issue of SCM Live, Oddballs and Outliers, again, a shameless plug, subscribe to Sports Car Market Magazine sportscarmarket.com/Zoom. You'll get the deal of life, and you'll get 200 pages of stuff just like this every month. Thank you very much, Jeff Zurschmeide and Summer Hooker. I'm Keith Martin. I've enjoyed being your host today, and we'll see you in the next episode.